Carlos and I made an agreement that we wouldn't prepare for this at all. So I've kept my end of the agreement. We'll see if Carlos kept his end of the agreement.
I haven't.
As well. If you've never heard me talk about my research before, I look at YouTube videos. I'm doing discourse analysis of YouTube videos. I look particularly at discussions between Christians and atheists, and I'm looking at how they use metaphor in their discussions and how metaphor leads to understanding and more often than not misunderstanding between the different groups. I just went to go look at one of my videos and I found out that my main informant had been suspended. Which it doesn't matter now. I have all the transcripts that I need, but it's sort of it's been a while since I've actually looked at the actual YouTube pages, so it was a bit of a surprise. But so let me sort of do the quick and dirty description of how I use Atlas TI, and hopefully it will be useful to some of you. I'm not going to do much by way of telling you all the things that Atlas TI can do. I just want to show you the things that I'm using it for, and then hopefully afterwards, if you have any questions, we can talk about that. So this is what I start with. This is a YouTube video page. I'm sure all of you have looked at YouTube before. Probably not the kind of videos that I'm watching, but basically I have a video like this, and this guy is talking. I didn't set up the sound, so you can't really hear it, but I have a video of a person talking, and then below the video I have all the comments, right? All the comments from users. And if you click this, you can see these are the video responses, and then there are all the comments on the video right here, which look something like this. So this is what I start with. Basically what I do is, first is a lot of copying and pasting into a Word document like this. Well, sorry, the first part is not copying and pasting. This is a transcript of the video. And you can see I have a timestamp here. And I'm not going to talk much about transcription because this isn't about transcription, but there's a particular way of transcribing that I'm using. It ends up looking like this. These are the words that the person is saying. Here's a timestamp of how long the video has gone for. Goes all the way down, 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 down to the end of the video, end of the speaking part of the video, and I have a couple of screenshots from the video, title of the video, information from the video, and then below it, there are 613 comments on this video, and these are all the comments on the video. Wow. 95 pages of this. This should be an RTF document when you're using Atlas TI. I don't know why that is exactly, but that's what it should be. I've been told. Don't save any changes here. I'm going to close that. When I put it in Atlas TI, this is what it's going to look like. Same video that I just showed you. It looks relatively the same, right? This will be the document. I have the timestamps here, and I have, there's also line numbers as well. Goes all the way down here to same sort of thing, pictures, and then the comments on the other side.
Do you literally copy and paste that from your Word document into that?
No. In Atlas TI, what you have are what they call primary documents, and these are the primary documents. You see this, it's a Word thing. Atlas, the thing that Atlas does is Atlas doesn't actually take the document and put it in the program. Okay, Atlas doesn't do that. Atlas is, the best way of thinking about Atlas is sort of, you have a Word document, and Atlas puts a kind of film on top of it that you can write on. That's the best way of describing it. And you can take the document away, you still have the film, but you can't make any sense of it unless you have the document. So the document is sitting somewhere on your hard disk. Once you have your documents set up and you bring them into Atlas, it's best not to touch them at all, because what can happen then is you have that film, and if you change the document and you put the film back on top of the document, then everything is messed up. So it's important that you get your documents right before you put them into Atlas. And then once you put them into Atlas, don't touch them. That's my best advice about them. And you can see I have 20 transcripts that I'm looking at. I actually have probably 40 that I've done, but And as your PhD goes on, it seems you get narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower, but end up looking at one line of one of these documents in the end. But you can see how many quotations. So I've done a lot of work on these documents. But yes, that was a good question. So you have all your documents in here, and you can look at them in, this is P document. P stands for primary, and these are all of them. So if you want to look at this video, you can look at this video. It's the same sort of thing. Some of these have obviously less comments than other ones. This one only has, I think, maybe 10 or 15 comments on it. I'm sorry. I should also say about my data is that it can be quite crass sometimes. So I'm quite used to seeing vulgar words, but if you're offended by it, I apologize. I always feel like I have to warn people before I say it. Someone looks at it and says, what kind of research are you doing? Very academic, I promise. Okay, the kind of research that I'm doing is looking at metaphor, and so the next step that I need to do is identify all the metaphors in my data set. Now, you may ask, how do you go about identifying metaphor? Well, there's a procedure that I follow that was produced by my supervisor in collaboration with some other people. I don't want to go into that either because that's a whole different issue. Could be a whole different presentation. What I should say is that Atlas, for doing this kind of very close linguistic analysis, is not great because I'm looking at word, 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 and I'm trying to code individual words. That element of it, Atlas is not great for. What Atlas is good for is taking a bunch of data and putting it together in a way that you can read it. But the problem with the way that I'm doing it is that these things here are called codes. Okay, so what I'm looking at is this line here. I'm looking for the metaphors in them, and I hope I haven't made any mistakes here. I'm probably going to find them. I've got to change something here. But so these are the codes for the metaphor. Free, sense, and sanity are all the ones that I found in this line here. And so what I've done is I go in here to this is called the code manager. You can create a code, and all of my codes for metaphor start with M, and then the word that it is. And I take the code and I just put it on this stretch of discourse, okay? Does that make sense? So you have a line of something from your document, and you put a code on there, okay? And these, then you have this list of different codes that you've made and put on there. This is just my metaphors. I have 2,077 just metaphors. Okay, you're not supposed to do Atlas like this. You're not supposed to have 2,000 codes. I actually have 4,000 some odd with everything. So I have people and categories as well too. Way too many codes in Atlas for this kind of analysis. I would say that if you're coding more than, I don't know, 50 things, you generally probably only deal with 50 codes because you'll be doing kind of thematic analysis. This is specific to me. So I have all these codes. If you have 2,000 codes, and most of these are only like, if you look at them, so this is the code, these are the families of codes I put in. Grounded means how many times it appeared in my whole data set, okay? And if I do this, I can show you that the most common one is garbage. It came up 156 times. It tells you a little about my research. But if you look, so some of these, there's maybe 6 over 100, and then it starts to drop pretty dramatically. And by the time you get to, I think it's about 300 codes, you're looking at only 4 times it's in the data, and I think by the time you get up to about halfway through, all these are only happening one time. So one time, one time, one time.
Is this coding both the video data and the comment data as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the video, I don't actually have the video. All I have is the transcript.
Yes,
so,
the transcript.
okay. You can do video if you want to. The transcript is important to me for the kind of analysis that I'm doing, so I'm just using the transcript. So I have all these codes. It's not useful to look at them like this, right? I mean, it could be useful. Like every time I want to see the word figs, it's interesting. You click on this and it brings you to the times where do men gather grapes of thorns or figs from thistles? So that's where the word fig is, okay?
So when you say you have to highlight the sentence so that you can put a code
On it, yeah. You can decide how you want to do it. If you want to code just words, you can do they have an auto-coding tool here. And you can select a code and then select a word that you want it to code. And if you do it this way, so that you click start, it's going to, well, you got to look at the whole document, but it will take you to, oh, shoot, I just did that automatically.
Coding all.
Don't save changes, don't save changes. Sometimes you make mistakes like this. Now my fig, I now have 41 codes of fig on the word anything. Well, that's an easy mistake to fix, fortunately. But anyway, so now, well, it's a good example. You see the word anything, now I've put the code fig on it. So if you wanted to look at just words, for me it's useful to have, I want maybe 3 lines of transcript or the whole comment. For me the quotation, if I'm doing comments, I do the whole quotation like this, and then I put the codes on it that way. Okay, I keep trying to get to what I'm trying to do is take all my codes and then put them into useful things, or useful grouping, so that I can have some meaning of them. This is also something that my supervisor has developed for metaphors, putting them into groups, and in Atlas they call those families. So you have, if you have one code and you put 2 codes together, you have a family of codes, and you go down here to edit families, open your family manager, and this is a much more condensed way of looking at all the codes that I have. So here I have all the different families of codes, and they're based on semantic meaning. We group them together. So all the codes, burning is a really important theme in my work, or in my data set. So I put all of the codes that relate to burning I put together. Ash Wednesday, backfire, burn, coal, damn it, faggot, fire, fire up, firestorm, flames. Some of these things too are contextual. So this, some of them you might say, now why is that in the burning one? Well, in the context of it, they're talking about burning Holocaust. Well, yeah, most of these are pretty obvious: smoke, smoking, smoldered, toast, right? Some of these become really big though, like movement, and I may try to break this family down a little bit: advance, approach, arrive, back up, back out, backslide, these sorts of things. Yep.
What are the 2, is the window on the left?
So yeah, these are all the ones, all the codes in the family. These are all the codes outside of the family. So if I want to go down here and add a code, I would take lockup and put it in here.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Now lockup is in there, and I want to take it out. It's out. Okay.
Okay.
So the useful thing about this now is that I can take, let's take a one that's maybe not too big. Okay, look, I was using burning as an example. So these are all the codes of burning, okay? And I want to look at all the quotations, all the times that burning is used in context. All these vehicles are used in context. I go up in here to miscellaneous, output under families. I put output. I want to include my quotations in my printout. I hit yes. Compiles it, and it says here, send output to editor. I say OK, and it gives me this beautiful document here of all the quotations from my whole data set that use the word or use something related to burning. What have you been smoking? Call someone else a fool who causes offense to your damned to the fires of hell. Fires of hell? Do you see? Burn, burn. Some of these I just did the word, not as useful. I have to go back and see it in context. But in this case, I think probably what I did was I had 3 instances of burn in one situation or in one comment, and I wanted to get all 3 coded. This is why it's really useful. Now I can go and look at all these in context. Getting to this from where I started from, it's taken me about a year. Atlas is one of those things where you start working on it and you don't see any benefit from it for, if you have a big data set like me, I mean, you don't see any benefit for it. You think you're just wasting your time, wasting your time, wasting your time. But when you get to this, and you're in the place now, for my supervisors are asking, okay, Stephen, what have you been doing the last year? So I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, but I've also been doing some analysis. As soon as I got my supervisor comments are still on it, but essentially what I've done now is I've taken this video, I put the transcript here, and I've underlined all the metaphors. I have them by grouping, and then I'm saying what the action is, or what is the thing that is happening in this bit. And the reason that I'm able to get to this is because I've done all of this. Now I could have done it all by hand, but the benefit for me now is that if I want to see, there's a lot of nautical metaphors. It's related to, well, it's one of these things. It's related to a particular part in the discourse where someone tells a story about the Titanic, and then people start talking about the Titanic. In 613 comments, trying to get to all those instances of the Titanic is really difficult, but when I put them all together like this, I can just go into Atlas, again, back to my my family manager, and look at all the nautical ones, right? Or I can click on this, sorry, nautical here. These are all my nautical ones, and I can just click on mate. When is mate used? There it is. Titanic. These are all the examples of Titanic. I can look here, look here, look here, look here. They just show up. So again, it's made it really, really useful at this point. I mean, I can get anything I want. But I should also say that when you're doing this sort of coding, it's really, really important that you know what you want to code before you start coding. So do a pilot study. That would be the most important thing I would say. Do a pilot study where you code whatever you want to, and you're trying to find out where the codes are useful. And instead of going into your data set, because the problem is if you're like me and you did 24 documents, you did half of them one way and you did half of them the other way, you really have a big mess. And so I did this last week actually. It wasn't nearly as clean as this, but my supervisors again were saying, you know, what's the output from this? And the truth was, it's like, well, basically my codes are a mess, you know. And some of them are really useful, and I know how to make sense of it, but if I have to show it to anybody else, it doesn't make any sense. And they said, you need to show us what you've done. So I had to go through, and I had 3,400 codes of metaphors, where sometimes I had coded just a word, and sometimes it was a stretch of language, and I went through them one by one and fixed them all so that it's consistent now. And once it's consistent, then it's really, really useful for getting the information out that you need. There's a lot more that Atlas does. That's what I'm using it for right now. Again, the point is you do a lot of work on it before it bears fruit. It's a very important metaphor in my data, actually, bear fruit. I'm thinking about it. I spent the last 3 days looking at, so I have my 630 comments here, 613 comments. It's like, let's look at all the violent action ones, and you go and you scroll up, and like, oh, there's a violent action. Oh, great, I collect that and put it in there. You end up doing those sorts of things, but at the end, you can really start to see patterns between things. I would suspect that for most of you, you would have an interview transcript, you have an answer to the interview question, or somebody is talking about, I don't know, the relationship with their teacher, for example, and you would say, okay, this stretch of discourse I want to code as talk about teaching or something, and then you'd be able to put all those together. You wouldn't be doing it at the word level like this.
Can I ask a quick question about that? Sorry, just going to turn this on. Apologies. I know in the latest version of Atlas, they say they're encouraging people to try and transcribe in Atlas. Have you ever tried that?
No, I've transcribed in Excel and I've transcribed in Word, and I found Word to be the best. It's one of these things where you when you're sort of, you have your own idiosyncrasies. What's the word I'm looking for? Idiosyncrasies, that's it. You have your own idiosyncrasies, like me, I can't say the word idiosyncrasy. And I would say that to do it the way that's easiest for you. Yeah. Right now, I don't even want to think about it. I did transcription last year. I don't even want to think about doing it again. Maybe when I go into my next project, I'll think about it. Think about doing it. But
I can't imagine technically how it's happening anyway. I mean, if it's just a screen that goes across a Word document, then what are you actually
writing in there?
Writing in.
Maybe it's changed. It's changed. I was going to say about the screen over the document is that if you go into this document here and you add a space between would, space, let a puppy drown, the way that Atlas treats this is not as this stretch of language. It treats this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're just different spots. And once you put, before you had 13 and now you have 14, it's going to treat everything, this new space, it's just going to move everything back one. So all of a sudden your code, so if you coded kind here as this, kind, what it'll do is it'll make it that. IND slash space. So if you do any big changes here, and I made that mistake a couple of times, not a good thing to do. So I'm actually not real, I mean, it feels very precarious to me, Atlas does. I always open it up every morning and go, I hope it's still there. The good thing that you can do with it is make an output, like I showed, but you can also do an output with, as a PDF. If you have a PDF tool, and let's see if this works. Sorry, I have a different screen here. Let's see if this works.
Can I just say, while it comes up, that the new version of Atlas TI allows to edit your primary document, which is really good. So
that's the kind of thing I was wondering about.
I think it's one of these things that the problems that I'm having are probably, because I've been using it for 2 years now, some of the things have changed as well too. This is a bad example because it just did this one quotation, but essentially it could give you a PDF. It could give you a PDF with the quotation and the codes here, so you would have a hard copy of it. And I think maybe I have a better example of it here in my backup. And then I've got to let Carlos go here.
Don't worry. Can I just also say that Atlas TI is very good, I find, for transcribing audio. It works really well. It opens a memo window, and then you've got your audio, and it has very good shortcuts to pause and play, and it's really nice for transcribing audio, but not for video.
Right, so you're listening to the audio through Atlas TI, and are you typing in Atlas TI?
Yes.
And it saves it within Atlas or within a...
I can show you in a minute if you want.
Okay, thank you.
Stephen, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm also using it. My main issue is I can't get the quotation, the lines. I did my coding single hand return because it was long stretch of a it was an interview transcription. Yeah. So when I do my output, what I get is, oh sorry, you could
I'm sorry, yeah,
okay.
I was switching over.
Sorry. Okay, I went with your output. You had P. Yeah. Let's say the primary document number, whatever label you have for it, then the stretch, the first single stretch of the utterance, and you had your line showing the line number. In my case, when I do the output, I don't get the quotation lines.
You don't get the
quotation numbers, yeah. So I was wondering, I get it just on top.
On the top?
Yeah, but I don't
on
get
the quotations.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think I get it on the quotations as well either.
No, the output you just showed had the number 3000.
Let's take a look at it afterwards and we'll see. Yeah, I think as far as specific problems go, I just wanted to give an introduction to it. If you have any specific problems, I shouldn't say this. Afterwards, please. I should also say I'm leaving the country on Monday.
You need a
I don't know if I'm going to come back, but yeah, if you have a simple-ish problem, let's take a look at it and see if we can solve it. Okay. I need to let Carlos go, but thank you all very much, and we'll talk more privately. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.